And good morning to you, or whatever time of day it is for you. It was interesting. I was actually going to start some time ago. 5:22 was my goal. And then when I clicked on to record, it said that the movie maker was in use by another program. Of course, I don't know what the other program was, but anyway, I ended up having to reboot my computer and reopen all my programs all over again. So it put a little bit of a delay on me, so I'm starting at 5:44 instead of 5:22. So maybe the 44 is to ground this idea that I'm going to be sharing with you today into manifestation. 4, of course, to me is the number of Earth. You know, the four corners of the Earth, 4 square, 4 directions. It's an Earth number. We're going into the 4th dimension, 5th dimension, whatever. We're looking at consciousness, and that's actually what I'm talking about today, is consciousness, and the title is Concentric Circles or a Ladder. We are studying at the New Way on Monday nights in our class. We're studying Power versus Force and the Enneagram, and the whole series, the 4 weeks, this 4-week section is on knowing ourselves, understanding ourselves. But anyway, I wrote my little blurb saying, in Power versus Force, David Hawkins gives us a chart that begins with low consciousness, shame and guilt, apathy, and then rises up the scale to ultimately to enlightenment. It gives the impression, looking at the chart, of climbing a linear ladder. And the thought came to me last night as one of the people in our group said, I feel like I'm at a higher consciousness level, but sometimes I still feel angry. You know, why do I still feel angry? And another person said sometimes she still felt shame. And as this discussion was going on in the group, an image came to me, which I shared with the group. What if, instead of it being a linear progression, where we think that when we get to this next level, there's nothing, you know, we've left the one below it. What if it's actually concentric circles in which each higher awareness still contains the previous emotions? And it made sense to me, and it made sense pretty much to everybody in the group. So I'm going to share that with you today. What I saw last night in the image that came to me, and how I think it works. As we exist in lower levels of consciousness, everything seems to appear linearly, as if climbing a ladder. And we're not really conscious of how anything is connected to anything else. Everything is pretty much in an unconscious state, a state of lacking awareness of the bigger picture. All we can see is what's happening right now in this present moment. And we think that that's good, and in a way it is good, but in another way it's not. Because life has a flow to it. And as we rise in consciousness, as I rise in awareness, it doesn't mean I leave anything behind. It means I have a better grasp or a better understanding of how I created at that level, unconsciously. I have a greater awareness of how the universe actually works. And that's what's one of the things that's happening amazingly in this 9th wave. All of a sudden, we're getting it. Collectively, individually we're getting it, but even collectively, the collective consciousness is starting to get how everything is connected to everything else. And you can't just avoid something because it doesn't feel good anymore. You can't just remain in your apathetic state because you have to own what's below the apathy, the shame and the guilt, which apathy is above those two. You have to own those two and encompass them. But as we move into the highest levels of consciousness, we become more godlike. And what is God like? Well, my definition of God, as I've shared many times, is all that is. That's my favorite definition. God contains everything. It's the biggest circle imaginable, and it actually does it. Even a circle is too restrictive for what we call God. It's too restrictive. But the idea of a circle is that God is everything inside the circle, but there is no outside the circle, because God is both the inside and the outside, the upper and the lower, all things and all non-things, all actions and all non-action, all energy, all power, all force. Everything is part of God. There's nothing separate. As we move higher into our levels of awareness, we approach, I'm not saying we're ever going to reach the point where we have it all, because then the journey would have no more purpose. And the journey has a purpose. The purpose is to experience, through contrast, all that is. Everything. I'm a 9 in the Enneagram. That's what we were talking about last night after we finished discussing the power versus force issues. And the 9 sees themselves, or I should say, they see every possibility within themselves. They see every personality type within themselves, and they're able to embrace them all. They're able to connect with every other type. It's the inclusiveness. And we had, not surprisingly, we had the majority of people in our group were 9s. The biggest grouping of people in the Enneagram were 9s in our group. What do we have? 8 people in our group out of 21 people that were 9s, that were classified as 9s. Not surprising at all. We're able to see and identify with the bigger picture. But each concentric circle still contains the ones in it. It's not that we've left the other behind. We have embraced it with love. So now when we get angry, we don't feel like we blew it, when that's the state that we were at, and we didn't really rise much above it, and we were starting to be pulled above it by recognizing, hey, this anger gets me in a lot of trouble sometimes. I don't know how to express it in a healthy way, and it gets me in trouble. I sometimes get violent. I sometimes get mean, sarcastic. I say things and do things that bring me back to shame. And that's the way it works. We don't leave those things behind just because we've moved to a higher thing. But when we're in anger, we don't realize, we haven't yet realized how much we're creating in that anger unconsciously. It's almost just reaction. Bing, 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 bing. It's all action, reaction, action, reaction, action, reaction. As we move above there, we begin to see that we have choices. We don't have to react. We can choose to respond in a proactive rather than a reactive way. We can still feel the anger. And anger is the result of feeling that you've experienced injustice. And when you experience injustice, you're going to be angry about that. How am I going to respond now that I understand that anger is not my friend? It's telling me I'm in the presence of something in which I'm sensing injustice, something that isn't fair, something that's out of balance. It's out of tune with my higher awareness that is impinging on me and pulling me. And that's what's happening in this 9th wave. All of our higher consciousness, the state of enlightenment, in humanity is pulling humanity up. It's in training all of the things so that everything that's in the guilt and the shame and the apathy and the grief and the fear and the desire and the anger and the pride, all of those are below the 200 mark on David Hawkins' chart, which I'm looking at here on the screen, or I looked at on the screen. All of those are at the lower levels of consciousness. That's where we were creating everything from the unconsciousness place within ourselves. We weren't aware how we were co-creating our reality. We weren't aware. It was totally done at the unconscious level. As we get to courage, we begin to see and affirm that we have possibilities that are actually conscious. We begin to move into a higher state of consciousness where we begin to take responsibility ultimately for what's going on in our world, and we can see the connection between what we believe and how we think with what's happening in our life. We begin to put the pieces together, and then we move up into becoming neutral. Oh, well, that's the way it is. I'm human. You know, I'm not going to beat myself up anymore because I'm feeling angry sometimes, or because I'm feeling guilt. Whatever the feeling is, we're getting to the place we're not connected to being either or anymore. We reach the place of neutrality where okay, I am that, but I'm also this. I'm both. I'm both and. It's not an either or anymore. When you're in an either or thing, you're still in a lower state of consciousness. At least that's how I'm seeing it for myself. And I've been in either or lots of my life. It has to be either this or that. It can't be both. No, when we get into the higher states of consciousness, it's not only both, it's all. It's everything. It's everything. I am everything. I am all in all. I am part of the Creator, and I'm recognizing the Creator that dwells in me and is me, expressing itself through me. I'm recognizing that more and more and more. I still have all of the human experiences as I move into my divinity. I still move there. But I still am aware of everything that I've come through. Otherwise, what's the purpose of having gone through it? Sometimes some people have the idea that everything is going to be erased when we get into higher consciousness, that we're not going to have the awareness of what we have experienced because it's painful. No, it's no longer painful when you understand, hey, it's a gift that I was given. I was given the gift of being able to experience that contrast. And it was a wonderful thing. When you're going through it, it doesn't feel so wonderful, does it? But you get beyond it, and all of a sudden, hey, I'm seeing more clearly now. I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel now. I'm seeing the meaning and the purpose in what I experienced so that I could love more, so that I could be more. The concentric circle idea, to me, gives the image of an ever-expanding awareness as we move from smallness to largerness, to something greater. And we're always expanding, always expanding. But with each expansion, we keep on containing everything that we've already gone through. That's wisdom. That's wisdom. You realize that you're not leaving something behind. You're not getting away from anything. You're embracing it, and you have a better grasp of why it was there in the first place. It all has meaning, and nothing is left behind. Nothing is jettisoned away. It's all meaningful, every bit of it, and we embrace it. So anyway, these insights that came to me last night and that I was pondering this morning before I came to my computer, these insights to me are important. And I ask you to ponder them yourself if you so desire. Know that you are moving from a lower awareness level to a higher awareness level. The whole human race is experiencing that right now. And it's a beautiful thing. It is the 9th wave in the evolution of consciousness that Carl Kalaman and Ian Lungold and many others now are teaching. It's a beautiful thing, folks. this awakening. Lots of people are going to change dramatically. And we'll talk more about that in the days to come, of how some of these changes will affect the society and the matrix that we live in. I went a little bit over again because I had to add some things. But anyway, I'm going to leave you with these thoughts this morning. Namaste. I love you. Have a great day. Thanks.